Hi everyone, my name is Jeff Starr and I'm a big guitar nerd, and this is my video about the 5 guitars you need to own. Now, I'm going to be very straightforward and actually say that you don't need to own 5 guitars. You don't. Being able to have more than one guitar is a privilege. I don't mean to be totally flippant or whatever about like, hey, go buy a bunch of guitars. But if you can buy another guitar, or if you've worked really hard and you got a bonus, or you're a high school student and you got a summer job and you're saving all your money because you really want to buy another guitar. If you're a sort of new guitarist, or maybe you've been playing for a while and you just want to get more gear because we're all addicted to gear. I have some tips and tricks and some thoughts for you that may be really useful. I want you, the viewer, to hopefully learn from my mistakes. So you see what's on the wall here, but actually over the years, I have way more than this. I have stuff in my parents' house. There's a banjo sort of shoved in the corner there, and I own 2 banjos. I own a mandolin, and I even have a violin. At my feet here is a sitar, and of course the stuff here. One of my favorite guitars is not even on this wall. But basically, like everything on the wall here, I didn't get that stuff until after I turned 30, and now I have 2 kids. I probably won't be buying anything else for a really long time. So I've bought a lot of stuff over the years because I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do and what my sound was and all this stuff, and it's focusing on gear. So the first tip that really I would like to say is focus on learning to play your instrument. It's really easy, especially now, and I'm a huge sucker for this, is you get sucked into watching YouTube and you're watching like people demo pedals and talk about guitars and gear and amps, and you just sort of begin to lust over that stuff and you get gas, right? You get guitar or gear acquisition syndrome. I have that. I get that bad. But the main thing is, you got to learn how to play. If you don't have a guitar and you're going to buy your first guitar, I would buy an electric guitar. I think you'll find it's a lot easier to play on. And if you don't know the difference between a humbucker or a single coil guitar, a single coil guitar. So here, this is a Strat. A Strat is a single coil guitar. It's got these 3 single coils. They tend to be noisy. That coil picks up buzz and the wiring in the room, and you get a noisier sound. So if you're looking to buy your first guitar, maybe get something with humbuckers, because it'll help to reduce that noise, and it's one less thing for you to sort of have to fight against if you're first starting to learn. Also, on a guitar like a Stratocaster, you get this what is often referred to as a tremolo. It's really a vibrato bridge. Or a whammy bar, or whatever, and you push down on this, and the bridge lifts up. What happens is it changes the pitch of your instrument, and it drops down, and it comes up, and you can do little shimmery sounds and stuff. That's awesome. I love that. I'm a huge Strat guy. That's my favorite type of guitar, but it's a lot of maintenance, and if you don't know what you're doing when you start, it's really hard, especially if you buy a cheap guitar. My first guitar was a Strat copy. It was made by Epiphone at the time, before Epiphone's quality is what it is now, which is really good. And it sucked. I didn't know what I was doing, and the action was getting all off, and I couldn't keep it in tune, and it just made it way harder to play. So, just some things to think about if you don't have a guitar and you're starting out to get your first guitar. That's just, I'm not going to say you buy this brand. I'm not going to tell you to buy this model, whatever. Figure out what you like and what you can afford. But 2 things I think you would find useful is to get a guitar with humbuckers, get something with a fixed bridge. So that might be like what you see on a Les Paul or what you see on a Telecaster. Your first guitar, I don't know what type you have. Maybe you went and did sort of my suggestion, and you start with a humbucker guitar. For your second guitar, you should do now the opposite. And I think maybe that's where you want to get that single coil guitar. Or if you start with single coils because that's what your dad bought you, or your uncle gave you to borrow or whatever, now you might want to look at doing the opposite so that you can have a wider variety of tone. If you look at the wall here, these instruments that I've ended up buying over the years and have become my main instruments, they're all really varied in the type of sound that they will produce. Guitars are not really that radically different, and we really get obsessed about how different they are, but it's subtle things that do make big changes in the way that your guitar reacts to how you play it, how it reacts with your amplifier, how it reacts with your pedals, and whether it's a longer or shorter scale length means it'll be easier or harder to bend. So that'll influence how you play, and you'll have to figure out what speaks to you, what you like. Play everything you get your hands on. But so if you have your first guitar, your second guitar, I would say look at something that's maybe the opposite of that. Now, if you hate that opposite, don't buy it. Don't. I'm just going to talk about through this wall. And I'm going to talk about what's on the wall because these are sort of my main instruments now. I've got a whole lifetime of instruments that I struggled with before I sort of landed where I was here. And then, yeah. I love Strats. This is a great guitar. I love this guitar. But when I wanted something different, I wanted to get something with humbuckers to be a counterpoint to the single coils, because I was having a lot of issues on gigs where I was just getting horrible buzzing sounds. And also, if I was going to play a solo, because I was doing some solo stuff at the time, just myself, because I do like a blues thing, the Strats is a thinner sound compared to a humbucker guitar. So what was I going to do? Well, I could have bought a Les Paul or an SG, but I don't like the way an SG, I really love the way an SG looks, but it just never feels right to me. It bums me out because I love SGs. They're super friggin' cool looking. And I'm a big Zappa fan, and he plays an SG. But it's really hard for me to find one that works for me. And a Les Paul was just too heavy, and it was too dark, and it just wasn't what I wanted. So for me, I got sort of a different type of opposite, which is when I picked up this guitar. This is humbuckers, of course. It's got the fixed tailpiece, because sometimes I wanted to not be constantly dealing with tuning issues. I liked this guitar for a lot of reasons. One, as a blues sound, it had the semi-hollow body guitar. Just has a different sound, like a John Lee Hooker sound or a Lightning Hopkins sound. Also, Eric Clapton and Cream played Gippophone. Oh my goodness, played a Gibson 335. So this is basically a 335 copy made by Ibanez. Really like this guitar a lot as well. Obviously, I wouldn't have bought it. Speaking of buying things, the other tip I would give you is be really frugal with your money. Don't just buy a bunch of stuff. Do your research. Play as many guitars as you can to learn the feel, what you like, which I was talking about before. Really figure out, how is this going to answer a problem? So in my case, I loved my Strat, but I was getting a lot of single coil hum. I was, when I was playing sort of just by myself solo, and I would do open strings along with bending strings. You'd hear the open strings dip because of the bridge being vibrato bridge. I didn't go out and buy a super expensive Gibson or a really, expensive Gretsch or something. Ibanez makes great guitars. This was great value. Plays awesome. $100 guitar and a $200 guitar, there's a big difference. $200, $300, it's a little less. And then when you're getting up to that level where you're spending $1,700 versus $2,000 or versus even $3,000, you're getting better finishes and it looks flashier, but in terms of playability and sound, it's usually not huge. All that stuff starts getting slimmer and slimmer. Figure out what's the best thing money-wise for you. So that's another tip. Think about what you're gonna spend, and do you really need to spend it? Third guitar. So to me, I think your third guitar, if you don't already have one at this point, get an acoustic. Now maybe you started on an acoustic. Probably if you did, it probably wasn't a very good one. Although I will say that this guitar is only like $170, and you can probably find it on sale for less than that. This is the Gretsch Jim Dandy. I got a ton of videos about this on my site. I think it's a great acoustic, and not even as just a beginner guitar, just as a great guitar. But it has a very specific sound. It's a very sort of like hollow, punchy, old-timey blues or folk sound. So it's not the right guitar for everyone. Great for me. But if you don't have an acoustic, I say get an acoustic. Take it camping. You can pull it out at a party. It's great for sitting on the couch and noodling away while you watch TV. And the other thing that's really good about it is the way you learn to play on an acoustic guitar is just, it's going to be different than an electric. And you're going to make your hands are just going to get a lot stronger. It's just going to, overall, it's great for like writing songs. If you don't have one and you've already got two electrics, because I don't know, I really think buy an electric first. I really stand by that. Second guitar, third guitar, definitely want to look at getting some sort of acoustic. This is parlor sized. That's what I like. Obviously, figure out what you like, okay? This isn't rocket science. The fourth thing I think you should buy, and this is actually a sort of a big departure from what you might think I would say. And the fourth guitar I think you should buy is a bass guitar. A bass guitar. Why would I say buy a bass if you don't have them? Well, one, when I bought my bass, it really, really, really improved the way I played guitar. It made me think of how scales related to chords. It made me think about how to transition from one chord to the next through like a walking riff. It really just made me think about what I was doing on the guitar a lot differently. The other thing that's really great is that if you're doing any sort of home recording, a bass is great because you don't even really need a bass amp. You can plug it directly into an interface, use some modeling amps in Logic or wherever, and you'll still get a pretty good bass sound. No one's going to be going, oh, that sounds really bad. Although I'm sure someone in the comments will tell me that. But if you have a bass and you know how to play it, even just basic ability on a bass, you can maybe get some gigs. It's really, the people are always looking for someone to play bass in their band because everyone wants to play guitar. You'll really be surprised like how much bass you can get for not a lot of money. Okay, so now we've talked about sort of 4 guitars I think you should have. Just to recap, you should have something that's got humbuckers. You should have something that has single coils. It's a Strat, it's a Tele, it's a P90 guitar, and then you have an acoustic. Then you have the bass. So what type of 5th guitar do you really need at that point? Because anything else you're going to buy is going to be some sort of duplicate of just those basic constructs. Well, I think the 5th thing you should buy at that point is something really fun and maybe a little stupid. Maybe that's buying a banjo, or maybe it's buying this sitar guitar. This is a guitar that has a little buzzy bridge to make it sound like a sitar. Why? I don't know, because it was the 60s, and they thought that would be a good idea. This I bought used. There's a full video about this on my channel. This is obviously a remake. But these were sort of a silly thing at the time, but I think they sound great. I really like them layered in recordings. They're a lot of fun to play. I've brought this to gigs just to play one song on it because I want to. And it's just something fun and unique. And I think that's sort of what you would want to be thinking about. Once you've covered all your bases, say, what's something fun that you can get? And another example of that would be, let's say, a baritone guitar. I had wanted a baritone guitar for ages, but I had no money, and it just wasn't going to happen. And when I was going to buy a guitar, I had to like think practical, you know? And if you look, like, you know, I spent like what? I said $350 maybe on this guitar. That bass was, I think I got it on sale. I don't think I even paid $200. This is only like $170. This is a lot more expensive. This was a special treat. I had some money set aside, and that was the time to get something. And I wanted to get something fun. Now, because I'd done all my research and I'd played a million things, I knew what I was looking for. I went around to every guitar store in New York City, and I played probably 6 or 7 different baritones, different manufacturers, different scale lengths, different setups, some with a whammy bar, some without, some that were more like doom metal, some that were real surf rock sounding. I played bass 6s. Ibanez makes a crossover bass. Anyways, this Reverend guitar, this is what I wanted. It had everything I wanted. I actually special ordered this. It came in. I played it, knowing that I might actually tell them I don't want it. I'm not going to buy it. But because I'd done all my research, when I got this, I was like, yep, that's perfect. This is now like one of my most special prized things, because I feel like I've like dug my way through thinking that I was going to play banjo, and then thinking, oh, maybe I should get a better banjo and I'll like playing banjo more. Or thinking maybe I'll buy a mandolin. Maybe that's something I'll do. And of course, if you know on my channel, I have a sitar down here. Now I do take sitar lessons. I've been taking sitar lessons for 6 years. Been very serious about that. So that is a really amazing part of my life, and I don't mean to get off track at all, but I love that. Anyways, the last thing I thought I would talk about is vintage guitars. And why did I not mention that, right? Because everything this theme here has really been about like, don't spend a lot of money, right? Because you don't always need to, especially if you're just trying to cover all your sounds and figure out what works for the type of music you're playing. Because like from this stuff here, I have sort of a rootsy, you know, bluesy sort of surf influence. But if you're like in a metal band, like you wouldn't buy these exact guitars. That wouldn't be right for you. You might buy something that's single coils. You might buy something that's humbuckers. You'd probably maybe even want a baritone for drop tunings. A bass, I think that would still apply. And then something fun. You know, well, I guess the baritone would probably be your fun guitar. Vintage instruments. I think, yeah, if you can afford to buy a vintage instrument, do it. But like, don't just buy something because it's old, because there are a lot of bad old instruments. There's a huge popular trend right now where it's like all these student model guitars from the 80s, and it's like, oh, look at this cool funky guitar, or like, check out this cool weird Japanese guitar. Yeah, they look cool, they look funky, they don't really play that great. Now, maybe that's sacrilege. Leave me a comment, tell me I'm an idiot. You don't just run out and buy something because it's like old. Like, play it. Does it actually sound good? If you have reputable dealers in your area, like in New York, I'm really blessed. There's a bunch of really great guitar stores here. They will get that old, not so great playing guitar, and they'll do a total setup on it, and they'll fix everything, and they will make it play awesome, and they will make it sound awesome. But if you're just like going on eBay, or it's like mystery person on Reverb, be careful about that. Also, another thing to note is that although there's no real set rule on this, generally an instrument has to be 30 years old for it to become vintage. So if, you know, the guitar is only like 10 years old, like, you know, you're just buying a used instrument. Buying used is great. This is a used guitar. This is a used guitar. This is a used banjo. This is a used sitar. So once again, buying used is a great way to save money. Used is great. Vintage is awesome if you can afford it, but make sure you're really doing your homework there. So that is the end of this sort of rambling rant. I hope it wasn't totally stupid. I hope this was helpful. You don't need 5 guitars. 1 guitar is great. You'll probably want 12 guitars, and maybe over time you'll get there, but don't feel like you have to rush to get there. Take your time. Figure out what works for you. I'm just talking now. I'll shut up. If you like this video, please check out other videos on my channel. Leave me a comment, and of course you can subscribe. And if you really like this video and you really like my other videos, please feel free to go over to Patreon, where you can chip in and help support me making more videos like this. There was a delay in me getting this video up because I actually ran out of hard drive space and I had to go buy another hard drive and back up some footage so that I could actually get this made and get this out to you. All right. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate everyone who is a patron, and I really appreciate everyone who just made it this far in the video. All right. Have a great day. Happy practicing. Bye. Starman out.